you're running a balloon business, I bet you never thought that etiquette could be the key to unlocking relationships in your business. Today, I am chatting with a modern etiquette coach, Jules Hurst, who trains business owners about nailing that first impression. Etiquette is not dead. It's not drinking tea with your pinkies up. It's what you wear, your digital first impression, how you respond to emails. It's so many different things. And I found this interview absolutely fascinating. So thanks to Jules for coming on and sharing some of her etiquette knowledge with us in today's episode. Let's get into it. Welcome to this episode, Jules Hurst. I am so excited to interview you because we have a common connection through 17 hats, but
Yes.
totally different businesses. But
Yes.
you work with small businesses and you are an etiquette coach. You are nothing like any other guest we've ever had. So I'm so excited. Give us an introduction and just tell me about your business and what you do because I've never met an etiquette coach before.
Sure. So, first, thank you for having me. Yes, we have a common interest, 17 hats. Oh my gosh, just what a time saver, but I'm sure we'll talk about that right now. Let me introduce myself.
Yes.
Again, Jules Hurst. I am the founder of Etiquette Consulting Inc., where I empower individuals in social skills, leadership, and confidence, but through the lens of etiquette.
I love that. And I mean, your website's very modern. You're very modern. I think of etiquette as like Downton Abbey, like which fork to use. And like I said, balancing a book on your head. Like, what does modern etiquette look like?
So it is all of that. I do have courses where we're talking about where we do like the full on dining etiquette and we talk about the different utensils, we'll do it over a four-course meal. And so basically what etiquette and with the book on the head, I do teach that as well because it's one of the tools to help us with our posture and
Okay.
our presence, right? So especially because we're always on our computer, so we do this a lot. Even I sometimes, if I'm sitting down and I'm just working, I will find myself kind of doing, starting to do this, and then my back will start to hurt. So then that's where tools like walking with the book on your head, putting a yoga strap on to help keep your shoulders back, all of those things helps us, and that's all for our presence. That's what all of that comes down to. And yes, etiquette has been around for many, many years. And you are absolutely correct. I am modernized, but the basis doesn't change and it's making others feel comfortable. And etiquette are just a set of rules so that you can feel comfortable in any situation. You go to a
Yeah.
fast food restaurant, you know what to do, right? You order your food, you eat it, you throw the trash away. Easy peasy. You don't even think twice. But for some reason, if you sit down for a three-course meal, a four-course meal, then we start to doubt. Then we start to think, and we are no longer engaged in why we're supposed to be there because we're so worried about, are we using the wrong fork? Are we doing it? It's like, no, you want that same confidence that you have at that fast food. So that's
Yeah.
really what etiquette, and that's what I try to teach and instill with all of my clients. It's not about being perfect. No, there is nothing perfect about me. However, I do have confidence in any situation, even though sometimes I have to kind of work at it and like, it's okay. You can do this. You can do this. You
Yeah.
got this.
I
So,
love that. I mean, this seems like a hang with me for the story, but one of my friends got a mahjong board
mm,
for Christmas and she wanted to learn how to play it. So we all signed up for like a group lesson to learn how to play this game. And like it was the first time in a long time I told my husband, I was like, I'm like kind of scared. Like, I'm not very good at learning new games. There's all these rules. I don't know what they are. You're supposed to not supposed to touch things. There's like it was the first time in a long time that I was just it is very um like it throws you when like you said you don't know the rules. You don't
yeah,
know what you're supposed to be doing and like the whole time you're thinking about the rules and
yeah,
not what you're actually supposed to be doing, and I think that's true. Something like a fancy dinner or, like,
yeah,
if you're out with an executive, I
yeah.
think, yeah, you're so distracted. How did you get into this? How did you start this business or this, I guess, knowing anything about etiquette in the first place?
So it was something that I was brought up with. My parents were strict. I'm the oldest of five, so everything was instilled into me. And then, of course, like in a lot of families, as the kids come, the parents are less and less strict
I'm sure.
with the rest of the troop. So I got a lot of it, and I don't know. For me, it was just like, yeah, of course, yeah, of course. And I've always had like mentors who kind of, you do this, you do that. So it was just always it was destined for me to wind up here at
Okay.
some point because like I said, it was just part of my upbringing, part of my early career, just everything that I've worked in. And how I actually started teaching was I sent my girls when they were like junior high, high school to an etiquette class. It was like a 7 week weekly, etiquette class. And they would bring their workbook home and I was like, "Oh, okay, I knew that. I knew that was right." So like
Okay.
I already knew all these because it was it wasn't instilled as manners, it was instilled as you better do it or else
Okay.
kind of a thing, but my parents were actually that's what they were teaching me. So, I was like, "This is so cool. Oh my gosh, this is so cool." So, just for the heck of it, I Googled etiquette coaching because again, like a lot of other people, I had no idea this was something that you could do. I took a class, I got certified, that was in 2006,
Oh,
and
wow.
I've just it was like once I started teaching, so I started with teens and with kids just to kind of get my flow down and then things just started working towards business etiquette. Just life
Okay.
was sending me that way because I wanted to do social because I loved to throw parties that oh my gosh, this is going to be so perfect. My two worlds are going to collide. No, that's not how it worked. I went into business but since that happened in, I would say, like, 2010, it has just been like, it was like, yes, this is where now, looking back, everything that I have gone through, those mentors, everything, just it got me to here, and I just absolutely love it.
That is so cool. Well, and I mean, we throw parties. So this is a podcast for balloon decorators, and we are the party people. I mean, from the business side, because even though we are throwing the parties, we are running businesses. What are some of those basic concepts like of business etiquette? Like, I don't even know where to start. Do you have like your number one tip of like the thing you shouldn't do or the thing you should do? Like, what even is business etiquette?
Sure. So business etiquette, again, it's how you show up.
Mm,
So in 2026, we are 20, and we've been like this for a while, but we are 24/7 professionals. I don't know about you, but I know when I'm doom scrolling and I'm like, "Oh, I need to look for a balloon company," or, I need a balloon arch. So, balloon arch near me, and I'm start going through, whether it be on Instagram, whether it be on TikTok, whether it be a website, whether that's your first impression.
yeah.
So, first impressions, speak louder than anything else that you might say. So, if you have just like a bunch of stuff let's say Instagram, and you have a lot of things that don't really pertain to your business. Like I'm learning about you, which
Yeah.
yeah, okay, but I also want to see your business. So it's, again, putting out those first impressions. But if I see on your business just all negative, 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 again, that's going to be like, okay, well, I heard she was really good. She got a lot of, she came highly recommended, but online, it's completely, they don't match kind of a
Yeah.
thing. So it's taking care of your image because you are a 24/7 professional. And,
Mhm.
not that we are talking about 17 hats, but that's where your CRM, something like 17 hats, comes in because nobody knows more than an etiquette consultant about first impression. So it's having your CRM ready. So as soon as that prospect comes in, it's putting them on a drip or it's putting on, it's sending them the proposal and then the follow-up, so having all of those tools ready to go is just it's
Yeah.
so important that gives value to your impression because yeah, you have a first impression. So if you have a positive one, that's fantastic. But are you maintaining it all the way through?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
goes beyond that initial email or that initial website, again, doom scrolling, etc.
Quick pause because if you're running a small business and you feel like your brain is holding open 1,000 tiny tabs, this is for you. One of the biggest shifts that I've made in my business and that I've seen successful decorators make over and over is moving from doing everything manually to having a real system behind the scenes. That's why 17 Hats is our exclusive YouTube sponsor for 2026. 17 Hats puts your inquiries, contracts, invoices, questionnaires, emails, and workflows all in one place so you're not chasing clients, forgetting follow ups, or reinventing the wheel every single time someone books. Instead of asking, "Did I send that and what comes next?" your business just works. The best part, it doesn't make your business feel more robotic. It actually frees you up to do things that you are meant to do, like be creative, work with clients, spend time with your family, and all with less stress. If you're ready to stop duct taping systems together and start operating like a real business, head to 17hats.com to check it out. Once you have a system, everything else gets easier. All right, let's jump back in. Yeah, interesting. So then in person, if say you have the first impression and you show
Yeah.
up,
Uh-huh.
what should we be doing in person to I guess follow the rules? I feel like I've always just like been myself, but then sometimes you're like, am I being too casual with this
Yeah.
person? Or should I have dressed less or more casual, less casual, like there's certain things. The one that always gets me is like I usually do an install in jeans and I'm up on ladders, I'm doing
Mhm.
balloons, but then every once in a while I'll forget and I'll be at like a country club and I know that they have like a no jeans rule. So
Yes.
are there physical etiquette rules that you're like, this is a good rule of thumb. You should always show up like this or you should never do that.
Right. Yeah, and I completely understand because you're doing physical I mean, you're moving around, so
Right.
if anybody ever expected you to go in a dress and heels and coming close, it'd be like, However, with that being said, yes, you should always be mindful of where, of your audience and where you are going. But again, because you are climbing up ladders, and I've seen balloon artists and it's a lot of up, down, this, that, but so what I would always suggest is always having that 3rd layer, that jacket, that blazer. So when you walk
Oh,
in, so you have, so I would always check with like, if you're going to a country club, what their dress code is even for vendors. If they have something for vendors, then you need to follow that. If it's, we don't have a dress code because you're not really out there, you're just, behind the scenes setting up, then I would still go with, like, maybe, like, a darker color pair of jeans, something a little bit more, yeah, just darker, darker
okay.
color, and I would wear with if you have, like, a branding T-shirt, wonderful, but then I would throw that blazer over for when you first get there. That's your
Yeah.
first impression. And then, you look polished, you look put together, you have the 3, you have everything going. And then when it's time to get down to work, you take off that jacket, you throw your hair up and you're working. And then when you
Yeah.
leave again, you throw that jacket back on so that's how I would handle that because again, that first impression begins the moment they see you. You
Yeah.
don't wait until afterwards and like, oh, I'm gonna fluff up my hair and I'm gonna put my jacket on and I'm gonna go introduce myself. Well, they've already seen you. They saw
Yeah.
you coming in.
Yeah,
They
no,
saw
I
yeah,
agree, and
yeah,
I'm so guilty of the opposite. Like, I get there and I'm in, like, my winter coat that has
mhm,
no branding on it.
yeah,
Sometimes I have, like, no makeup and no hair and what but it's like, "Oh, it's just a physical job and no one's gonna see me," but it's like, well, yeah,
yeah,
when you get there, I
yeah,
look like a homeless person. They're like, "Why are you here? What are you doing?" Versus I like you said, like, that 3rd layer.
yeah,
I like
yeah.
that phrase, and then you take it off. Very
And you
cool.
just take it off and you do what you need to do. But again, like if you like I live in Southern California, so weather is really not that big of an issue for me.
Yeah.
I like, if you live somewhere like on the East Coast or the Midwest where it's like where it's below, that's a little bit different. You always want to dress for your environment. You're not gonna say, oh, well, I heard an etiquette coach and she told me, and you're freezing. No, 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 no. But again, when you take off your winter coat, again, how are you, are you polished? Even,
Yeah.
and we're not just anything. I mean, you are a representation of your business, so own it and take ownership of that.
Yeah, I love that. What about digital etiquette? You already talked about kind of having that CRM
Yeah,
and that teed up. Are there any faux pas that you see a lot of businesses being guilty of digitally? Because I feel like that is a lot of our first impression. And you said
yeah,
overly negative on their
yeah,
social media.
yeah.
I'm thinking more like communication. Are there best practices there?
Yeah, so if you're sending an email, then send an email. And I know, like, and I am so guilty of this as well. When we don't know how to say something, we know what we want to say, but we haven't been able to, string it in an email. We go to our friend GPT, right,
Yeah.
to kind of help us out. So make sure that you look at it. Don't just copy and paste and say, "Oh, that's good enough," and then send it off. So make sure overly emoji, and we all know by now when we're getting a chat GPT response because of
Right.
the way it's set up.
Right.
So I love it because words and I are not friends. I will be looking at a screen forever, just looking like I just don't know. But if I put all my thoughts in, I put it in Chat GPT, and then it spits it out. Like, okay, this is better. But then from there, I will, especially the beginning, just like your first impression, those first, that's as soon as they see you, you're starting that first impression clock is ticking. It's the
Yeah.
same thing with your email. That those first few words, those first few sentences, personalize it, make it sound like you. So that is one thing that I do see a lot where it's like copy and paste, like, okay. And
Yeah.
again, like I said, I do it, and it's because I'm having trouble stringing my thoughts. So I give people grace on that. I go, okay, but there's a part of me that wants to say, if you just would have rewritten the first two lines, you would have been good to go. So
Yeah.
again, but again, it's everything that you do, your business card, whether it be paper or digital, um, how you exchange them, any correspondence, it's all a reflection of you and your business. So you
Yeah.
always want to keep that in the back of your mind. This is how you're showing up. If
Yeah.
you're good, then fine.
Yeah. 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 Cool. So you have this as a course or as coaching. What would that look like if someone wanted to work with you? Like what can they expect through that program?
Sure. So I have a few different courses. So I have one that's strictly dining. So it's business and social dining because
Okay.
eating is eating, right? You don't change how you chew if it's a social versus business. You just chew. Like, there's no difference. There's just a little bit of differences when it comes to like a business meal versus a social meal versus hosting a meal, just like swipe, a few little tweaks here and there. So we go over all the differences, but we also go through this over a four-course meal. So the soup, the salad, the main course, and then your dessert. Because there are things like, how are you holding your utensils? Are you using them like garden tools, or are you holding it like a fork, but like a knife? There's the American, and then there's the continental method when using your utensils. Which one are you using? Do you have that down? There's a rule that you don't place a utensil once you've used it back on the table. Well, then where do they go? Am I supposed to hold them the whole time while I'm eating? So there's the resting. So that's what we cover, all of that. So it usually takes about 2.5 hours, depending on how many questions. So that's just the dining portion.
Okay.
And then we have a networking one, and we do everything from your body language, how you enter, just elevator pitch, you talking to someone. And one of the biggest things that I had a lot of calls on last year and going into this year is small talk. For some
Hmm.
reason, that has just been a hot topic. So even if they only want dining etiquette, they will ask, can you sprinkle in just like basic communication? Just like,
Yeah.
just how to carry that conversation. It's like, okay, the number one thing is like actively listening to someone. That means putting your phone away.
Yeah.
That means no phone. That means actively being present. So we'll do that. And then I have a class where it's just business etiquette. And like you said, it's like how workplace politics, just email, social media. And then or you can just take all three of them. And that's usually about a month and a half to go through
Yeah.
everything.
That's cool. I mean, I would say you hit my number one, like, a hard spot in my business, and that is it's the networking and the small
Yeah.
talk, and, like, I could talk to anybody, but that's where I'm like, "Am I being too casual? Am I being
Yeah.
too friendly?" Like, are they I feel like sometimes I feel like I relate to people by, like, letting them see everything behind the curtain, like, "Oh, how's business?" And I'm like, "Well, blah, 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 blah," and I just, like, I told 'em too much, you know? So it's like, I do feel like that small talk and that networking is tricky, especially when you're going into it with a lens of, like, "I'm here for business." Like, I think
Right.
sometimes people, myself included, they're almost too business focused? I don't know,
Yeah.
do you see that? It's just like, "Oh, I'm here, so I gotta, like, make all these connections,"
Yeah.
versus, like, "Well, I don't know what the point is. Am I actually just trying to make friends?" Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that balance.
And that's exactly what we teach in networking. It's,
Yeah.
and here's gonna be your etiquette tip for the day. It's networking is about building relationships because
Yeah.
people do business with someone that they know, like, and trust. All right.
Right.
So if you go in with the mindset of, I'm gonna talk to everyone, and it's a numbers game, and and you start handing out business cards like Halloween candy. "Hi, I'm Jill Source. I'm an etiquette coach. Hi, I'm Jill Source." You're not making any real connections.
Yeah.
Where instead, if you focus on 2 or 3 people, who is it that I need to, connect with to maybe tap into a new area of business, like, and looking for a strategic partner, so someone that has the same clientele, but is not in direct business with you. So, like, with you
Yeah.
would be maybe like a wedding planner, right? Because they have maybe the same clientele, but you guys aren't competing against each
Right.
other.
Right.
So maybe, I'm gonna go to where wedding consultants hang out, and that's gonna be my new. So, and picking out maybe 3 or 4 in my area, and then start building being strategic with your
Yeah.
time. Because going to networking events, if you do networking a lot, like we need to, who are solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, there's a lot out there. It
Yeah.
can get expensive. So you wanna use that time wisely because the magic happens after the event, your follow-up, the coffee dates, the this, the that. So if you've met 25 people, okay, I have 25 people, I need to follow up next week. Each coffee date's gonna cost me $6. So you start thinking,
Yeah.
all of this. So be strategic about who it is that you're and be intentional about who it is that you're going to meet and and start thinking of quality over quantity.
I love that. I like that. I feel like it took off the pressure. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
just go in and
Yeah.
meet like
Yeah.
2 people and then
Yeah.
follow up.
Yeah.
I've never done a follow-up. Like, it's never even occurred to me. And I feel like I'm pretty good at communication, and it's never even occurred to me to follow up after a networking event because I usually just go back to my car, like, sweating, and I'm like, "Oh, thank God I survived that. I'm never going again." Like, I'm so bad at it, but I like that idea of, like, we're 2 people I
Yeah.
can actually get to know and then
Yeah.
follow up with a coffee date. Love it. What about can I ask you a question about, like, paying for something like that coffee date? Is there an etiquette rule about covering the bill? Or if you initiate it, do you pay? Does that make it weird if you pay? Are
Yeah.
you on, like, a weird date then? Like, what's
Yeah.
are there any good rule of thumbs with those follow-ups?
Yeah, so in etiquette, if you invite, you pay. That's the
Okay.
rule when it comes to etiquette. So now if somebody's insistent, "No, no, 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 I will do my own." "No, no, 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 I will do my own." Obviously, you're not gonna be going back and forth in front of the barista or, whoever,
Yeah.
just like, "Okay," you know? But, ideally, if you that's why I said, you wanna be strategic because if you met 25 people, you're taking 25 people out to eat, and you're
Right.
inviting all of them. Like, "Oh, that could be
Yeah.
that could add up." So that's why and I say coffee date versus lunch or dinner because again, you're just getting to know them. Of course, you want it that relationship is building, then you might go to lunch. Then you might go to, you start taking it up the chain. But in the beginning,
Right.
it's a very low stress. Let's meet for coffee. One
Yeah.
hour tops, right? And just it's no stress, budget friendly.
Yeah. I
Something that you
love
can
that.
do. Yeah.
'Cause yeah, the opposite would be weird. If it was like, "I just met you. Do you wanna go to a long dinner alone with me?"
Like,
Yeah, this person's a weirdo. No, I love that. I love those action tips, like little bite-sized tips that, like, I feel like, "Okay, I can do this, and the goal
yeah,
is coffee,
yeah,
not the goal is I want all these people buying balloons from me." Like,
yeah.
that should not be the goal. Well, I love that. Well, where can people find you if they want to utilize your services?
Sure. So you can find me at juleshurst.com.
Very cool. And, like I said, shout out to 17 Hats. I mean, this is not an episode about 17 Hats,
Yeah.
but that's how we connected, um, because they do. They help us juggle all of our clients. I'm sure yours are the same. Do you use it to set up, like, online booking calls or group coaching or anything?
I use it for my strategy sessions. I
Ah, okay.
tried using it for like to book like dining etiquette but there's even though we're learning how to eat, and again, that does not change, but sometimes they want to add networking to it. Sometimes they want to add, 2 courses to it. Sometimes, so there it's not so cookie cutter as I would like to be able to just say, "Yeah, just go to my website," but I do use it for for my strategy sessions, that
Okay.
initial conversation, and for that and then, with all of my, courses, I have a 30-minute Zoom follow-up, so it gives you time to implement, and then 2 weeks later, we meet on Zoom. So then I use it like that, but I
Yeah.
love that's why I said, having a CRM, whether it be 17 Hats or something else, because you could be out just a day off, and it's still working. And I know you've had this happen too, where you get the text, "Invoice is paid, contract has been signed,
Yeah.
session has been set up."
Yeah,
It's like the
it's
best
amazing.
thing.
It's the best,
Yeah,
and like you said, first impression is everything, so it
yeah.
certainly helps us with that. Well, thank you so much, Jules. This was so fun. I am so excited to learn more and to work with you. I can't wait. This just seems like such a fun way to kind of up my business in like a way that feels enjoyable. I'm so excited.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it.